Well, good evening, everyone here. I wanted to welcome you to the annual general meeting of Hope Worldwide Canada. My name is Greg Taylor. I get to serve in a volunteer capacity as a country director. And of course, I've got a really easy job today in terms of some of the things I'm going to share is I get to share about all the amazing, wonderful volunteers that we have that work so diligently, both in their local communities and also from time to time serve overseas with regards to Hope Worldwide. If we look back at 2021, our country went through various challenges and stages and cycles of local lockdowns, restrictions in place, restrictions out of place, and more lockdowns as we continue to navigate out of the pandemic, and which really threw incredible stops and starts and related stresses on the ability of our different Hope Worldwide Canada chapters to deliver the services and the programs that they had planned to deliver. But despite all these challenges, one thing remained constant, and that was our desire as a faith-based charity to strive to serve like Jesus despite the circumstances, which brings to mind the scripture today, and forever. You know, as part of the leadership and the board of directors of Hope Worldwide Canada, it's our honor to serve alongside my fellow board members and our numerous volunteers who from coast to coast across Canada use their talent, skills, and compassion to meet so many needs in their local communities. This is our agenda for the first half of the meeting here, and I'm going to be shared, some other directors are going to share different updates with regards to Hope Worldwide Canada, and so we're grateful for what they're going to share. And we're also going to hear from our summer interns as they talk a little bit of our social media updates, and then I will close with an update on the situation in Ukraine and the privilege that we've had to assist with regards to that. We've had the opening prayer, but before we do that, I just wanted to read a brief statement that the Hope Worldwide Canada leadership and board of directors acknowledges that our volunteer work in many communities across our country spans many territories and treaty areas, and we are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are with us today, those who have gone before us, and the youth that inspire us. We recognize that the land and the benefits it provides to all of us, and as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territories reside on, work on, serve on, and are visiting. So a little bit about who we are. Hope Worldwide Canada is a registered nonprofit charity headquartered in Toronto, Ontario. We are affiliated with Hope Worldwide, a registered nonprofit headquartered now in Atlanta, Georgia, and are affiliated with legal entities in 70 countries around the world. In Canada, we are 100% volunteer driven. In 2021, we operated 11 local chapters across Canada from coast to coast, which run local programs, fundraising, and assist in international support. Internationally, Hope Worldwide Canada is active in 11 countries, and our mission is simply this: bringing hope, changing lives. So that's who we are. This is where we are. And again, this is just a map of Canada. There are some white spaces there. And as we continue to grow as a nonprofit, we hope to get into these areas as well. And also wanted to say that excitingly this year in 2022, we have added a chapter in our Newmarket Church, and we'll be adding a chapter in our Quebec City Church, which we're very grateful for. What is it that we do? Over the years, we've done a lot of things and responded to a number of needs. And the 30 years that we've been around, we've been very adaptable, sometimes stretched a little bit. Over the last couple of years, and really a shout out to the leadership of Hope Worldwide Limited, we've really defined a focus and a define on three things that we do very well. We mobilize volunteers, we empower communities, and we respond to disasters. Of course, we could not accomplish this without the amazing support and partnership of our International Churches of Christ family of churches. And for that, we say, thank you. We are grateful. So how do we do what we do? We have this goal of having every member engaged and every engagement being transformative. What I mean by every member engaged, that every member of our fellowship will be meaningfully and regularly involved in service, in serving the marginalized as Jesus and the scriptures call us to do. And that in having every engagement transformative, not only will we assist and improve the lives of the beneficiary that we're serving, but by that interaction, by that walking alongside, by that journeying and partnering together, the individual volunteer will themselves have themselves transformed in their faith, in their love, in their compassion, and their conviction to be more and more like Jesus. On our YouTube channel, we have a video that describes this a little bit more. So how are we structured? This is a view, and this is not really meant to be an org chart, but really wanted to highlight that from coast to coast across Canada, the diverse leadership and board representation that serves and helps drive Hope Worldwide Canada. As mentioned earlier, we operate chapters from coast to coast, from Vancouver on the West Coast all the way to Halifax on the East Coast. And we meet together regularly for mutually respectful, cooperative environment that includes a representation, training, and guest speakers, and we work to help and build one another up with regards to that. Later on, Anne Dussault, one of our directors, is going to give you an overview of some of the chapter work across the country. Not only have we been able to privilege to operate locally, we've also had the ability to have a global impact. And as I mentioned earlier, we have legal agreements with 11, if we include Hope Worldwide Limited, 12 different entities we're able to send money to directly. We've got structures in place to support and run programs there, which I think really reflects the multicultural base that Canada is built upon and our connections to many other people's home countries here. Via our relationship with Hope Worldwide Limited, we can actually access and support programs on a one-off basis within 70 other Hope Worldwide entities. Later on, Clovis Grant will give an update on some of our international projects as well. 2021, despite the pandemic, despite coming out of the pandemic from coast to coast, we saw over 600 volunteers give over 1,100 hours to their communities. And from what we're able to gather, serve and helped over 8,100 people. And we're so grateful for our volunteers that allow us to do what we do. And again, I just wanted to say a thank you to all of our amazing volunteers. We've expanded some of our partnerships. We have a Partners for Life program in place with the Canadian Blood Services, and we've run blood drives from coast to coast on probably about every 3 months. Various chapters will run blood drives. We've expanded our partnership with Dress for Success, which is an organization that specifically helps women re-enter the workforce. And we've done clothing drives, done fundraising to assist them. As well, we've partnered with specifically, and I highlight, I call it to our Winnipeg chapter, with an organization called True North Aid that is working with Northern Manitoba Indigenous communities and assisting them. And we're looking at and expanding on that and trying to see what we can learn from assisting in that regards. So we volunteer in our communities, but also we have an opportunity to volunteer internationally as well. And several volunteers from Canada consistently travel overseas to serve on Hope Worldwide Volunteer Corps. And right now in Nepal, our lawyer, Taras Kulish, is serving on the Volunteer Corps along with his wife, Sandra, and that's her on the right, as well as their 2 daughters. And they're having an amazing time of just wrapping up that Volunteer Corps. At Hope Worldwide Canada, we're really trying to purposely focus. We used to call it the next generation. I think we're going to now call it the now generation, because they're serving and having impact right now. And so we've got a couple of Hope Worldwide Canada volunteers that are serving with NIAC this year, and that is the North American Youth Advisory Council. We every month try to highlight a chapter spotlight with a volunteer, and that's a young man, Ryan Ma, in the Calgary chapter. We did our first Instagram live recording earlier this year, and we interviewed Amber Craig and Olivia Tour, who went to Nepal last December and served on a volunteer corps there. And again, as we've mentioned already, we are privileged through the Canada Summer Grant Program to have 2 summer interns working with us, and that's Jasmine Lantaho and Favor Nwagu, serving and really helping with our social media updates and the stuff that we're doing there. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Anne Dussault, and Anne, just let me know when you want to click the slides, and she's going to give you an update on our chapter highlights.
Thanks, Greg. I'm just going to briefly share some highlights from 2021. And as Greg mentioned earlier, we were blessed to finish 2021 with 11 local chapters from coast to coast. And we have regular chapter calls, and that gives us the ability to share and brainstorm ideas we can imitate and replicate from each other. So we'll start with Vancouver. Vancouver supported the food security in 2 areas. First, night shift ministries for homeless. They gave $1,000 total, and food banks. They got a lifetime deposit, $2,050 from recycling bottles. They also do blood drives they have ongoing blood drives, and they work also with Battered Women's Society, where with whom they support 14 families with Christmas hampers, and also they have they partner with International Children's Society. They gave gift cards to purchase Christmas gifts for families. Clothing drives benefited and Downtown East Side Women's Society, and Dress for Success also they partner with. They supported the Philippines Hope with $1,000 for project on building resilience with Sarah Felishko, and supported Amber Craig with $500 scholarship for Nepal HVC in December. Let's go to Calgary. Calgary has a lifelong commitment to blood drives. In 2022, they will have 3 blood drive, one in February, May, and October. They support the Street Fridge program, which is a great program too. And they will also be having an amazing race to fundraise for their future project, which is Hope Calgary Chapter's Youth Center After School program. In Edmonton, their main project in 2021 was working with Aldergrove School, providing support to 2 of their special needs classes. They were able to provide school supplies in the fall, as well as snacks for the children. And at Christmas, their volunteers provided hampers to 8 families. The Edmonton chapter also provided stockings, gifts, and a Christmas feast to the 19 children of those 2 classes. And they continue to provide snacks throughout the year, the children. And they closed the year with Christmas caroling at Seniors Home. And in February of this year, they participated in the National Blood Drive. And in March, they had 13 volunteers sorting donations at the food bank. In Winnipeg, they have 80 passionate volunteers, and Hope Winnipeg partners with Child and Family Services, Moontime Sisters, and Immigrant Settlement Workers, to name just a few. And some of their projects are, for example, Sandwich Sunday, English Conversation Club, Independent Living Series for youth aging out of foster care, Stock the Shelves, Feminine Hygiene Collections, Holiday Hampers, School Supply Drives, and yeah, that's it. And in Hamilton, Hamilton chapter supports a food bank. Last year they did Hope in Action, and this year Kaylin Brisebois did a concert to support and youth initiatives, as well as Ukrainian refugees. And I think he did pretty good. In Toronto, we have three chapters in Toronto, Toronto West, Central, and East. And they recently arranged the Easter breakfast and love baskets for a group of incarcerated women and low-income families in the Scarborough and Eglinton area through the Second Chance Foundation. Their target was 30 baskets, but they ended up with almost 50 baskets. And breakfast was served to over 60 people. In Ottawa, at Thanksgiving, their volunteers helped sort, package, and deliver food baskets to seniors in support to the Aging in Place, a program of the Ottawa West Community Support. And last year, Ahaya provided school supplies to kids of one of their communities as they headed back to class in September. And in Montreal, we have an online French discussion group that we launched in July 2020. And by the end of that year, we had over 130 participants. A Facebook page was created in September to promote the group and communicate any announcement and recruit participants. We also have French classes that are free. In October of last year, an official French class started for intermediate level participants. And we're hoping to add more levels this year. And the course is given for free by a certified teacher specialized in French as a second language. We have, on the international scene, Hope Montreal partners with Hope Haiti and Haitian support to help in case of disasters. We also support in an elementary school in far remote area of Haiti with a sponsoring program. And punctual help to people in need is provided also through Christmas and Easter baskets, as well as with school bags and a Christmas wish list. And finally, Halifax. In 2022, it's the 10th anniversary of Hope Chapter in there in Halifax. So, and they have Sunday suppers. Each year they provide about 1,000 meals for those going through challenges in their lives. And they also support a drop-in foot care clinic to serve this community. Volunteers sang Christmas carols in 2 senior homes, and also were able to spread Christmas cheer this past December to their guests at the Sunday suppers by supporting a donation drive to provide special Christmas gifts of headlamps, flashlights, insulated travel mugs, and bath towels for their guests. They were privileged to support 3 families in their community and with gift cards to enable them with the dignity to provide gifts to their children over the holiday season. And they helped this way. One of those families had 7 children. So I guess they were happy to see that. So that's it for the Canadian chapters. Over to you, Greg.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Anne. Appreciate that. And as you see, just really amazing volunteers from coast to coast. We're grateful for what the chapters are doing. So we expand outside our borders here, and Clovis is going to give us an update on some of our international projects.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Anne and Greg. Great always hearing the great stuff happening in our country. And even more when we think about the unity that we have across the world. And I'm I'm here in Toronto, which is in terms of territorial acknowledgement, which is Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and Haudenosaunee. And our closest First Nations community is the Chippewas of Georgina. As Greg indicated, I'm also a board member with Hope Worldwide. You mentioned also that we have service agreements in place with 12 other Hope legal entities, which gives us a great opportunity to connect internationally with many. And what's also great is each different members of the board are connected with a number of these different countries. So there is, it's not just supporting, but we have real connections to and ongoing connections to each of these international agreements. And just a quick highlight, if we go to the Philippines next, I just wanted to highlight there that we are truly privileged to be able to support the work going on here in Philippines in several areas. First, with disaster relief. I mean, we're blessed to be where we are in this part of the world, and in some parts of the world, you know, disasters mean real significant challenges. And so we're great to be able, it's great that we're able to provide support to the Philippines in during a number of disasters that they've encountered. Another really exciting project is the mental health tools, and we appreciate Sarah Falushko's work with this. It's this particular project is designed to equip the staff there at Hope Worldwide Philippines with effective and efficient tools for improving emotional well-being, not just for themselves and their own self-care, but also for the people that they serve. So in order to really be great givers, you also have to make sure you're taken care of. And so that's an amazing project that's being involved. And you can see there some volunteers doing preparing some hampers for the community. If we can go to the next slide. And this has already been referenced, Nepal. And you saw the earlier pic of Taras and Sandra, who are there at the moment. Wonderful that we have volunteers who can dedicate vacation time to supporting. And so thanks to Taras and Sandra. We've provided financial support for the school in the Hope School in Nepal for a number of years. And it's one of our oldest Hope Worldwide schools in the world. This Asha Vidyasharan school has been educating students for the past 28 years, and about 120 students from primary to grade 5. We started supporting a women's empowerment program, and this program in particular has been helping economically empower women in Kathmandu, Nepal, where the school is run, and vocational, which provides also the school as well as a vocational training center for over 25 years. At the school, classes are designed to help teach spoken English as an alternative language, as well as computer training. This particular women's empowerment program will provide 3-month adult education, beautician and tailoring classes, training 90 women in 6 months. It'll start revolving microcredit fund to give business loans to trainees, roughly about 60 loans in 5 years. So again, the name speaks for itself, women empowerment, teaching, and not just giving a fish, but teaching how to fish. So great work happening there in Nepal. If we can move ahead, please, to the next slide. Just broadly speaking, you see a number of different relief efforts. I just wanted to highlight some of the work that's being done on an international front with some of the disasters that have happened throughout the world. And in 2021, we saw Hope Worldwide Canada respond to a variety of international needs, supported very much by our generous donors. And we're also always very grateful for our donors. And in India, we provided COVID-19 relief as they faced a devastating second wave by raising $10,000 for food, medicine, and oxygen tanks. And I know that many of us saw the devastation that was happening, and we're grateful that we're able to participate and support in that way. The next clip you see there is of St. Vincent, and in the Caribbean, we provided disaster relief for those affected by the Soufriere volcano that erupted in St. Vincent, and we raised there about $8,000 to those individuals in that community who were left without power, water, and who were evacuated from their homes. Again, more devastation, unfortunately, but we're grateful that we were able to support in some way. Lastly, you see there Haiti relief efforts. We raised over $9,000 to provide immediate relief for those affected by the earthquake in Haiti by giving water, food, tents, and sleeping bags to the individuals there. So amazing things happening, and I just want to echo our appreciation for all our volunteers who were able to come through to enable us to provide these donations. I hand it back to you, Greg.
Great, thank you, Clovis. And I've got the Ukraine slide up here, but we'll talk a little bit more about that after we hear from Jasmine and Favor as they talk about our social media update and what they've been working on. So Jasmine and Favor, over to you. Just tell me when to click a slide.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Greg. So hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine, and presenting along with me is Favor, and we are the marketing team for Hope Worldwide Canada. So in this presentation, we'll be focusing on the marketing strategy and how it will help this organization connect with our audience of volunteers and our donors. Next slide, please. Okay, so we will go over a brief introduction of how we are telling the story of Hope Worldwide Canada, followed by an overview of our current performance on social media. From there, we will discuss our vision and our goals for our organization's social media using organic growth strategies, and then go into a content proposal and conclude with looking over our email marketing as well. So now I will pass it on to Favor for the next slide.
Yeah, so as Jasmine had mentioned earlier, we are the marketing interns, and our goal working with Hope is telling the Hope Worldwide Canada story. And our mission is basically to be the place where people, volunteers, donors, people from our Canadian family of churches and outside of that can get news and information on volunteer programs across Canada, as well as offer inspiration to serve like Jesus through our channels themselves, whether it's email or social media. And as we know, we are faith-based, but we are not faith-biased. And so we want to engage our audience of the ICOC, but also invite other people in. Next slide, please.
Okay, so diving right into our social media, we'll talk about a couple of our platforms. Next slide. We did a social media audit of 2021, focusing solely on our Facebook and our Instagram channels. And we did this by calculating engagement. So what engagement is basically counting every time someone likes, comments, or shares in our posts on Facebook and Instagram. And for an engagement rate, that tells us how engaged our followers are with our brand and if they find our content interesting. So we compared our 2021 average engagement rate with all the industries and also with nonprofits in 2021. And as you can see, our social media channels are actually doing quite well compared to them, as we have largely higher engagement rates. So what this means is that our followers are actively engaged with our content and with our brand. We also made a note that the best performing posts were either chapter specific or of our volunteers telling their stories, or just taking pictures of our volunteers, telling them, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how we're getting engaged. Our audience likes to see the impact we are making in our communities, and they are engaged when they see people that they know and the causes that they care about. So going forward in 2022, we will continue to keep this in mind as we move forward with our social media strategy. Next slide, please. So our audience overview of 2022 so far, as you can see on the left, our audience has actually grown in followers, which is awesome. So awesome, we have grown. So that's great. For audience breakdowns, we did it by gender and age, Facebook on the left and then Instagram on the right. So doing this really helps us understand who our audience is, how to understand them better, and basically who are we interacting with on social media in general. And as we look at our analytics so far in 2022, a majority of our followers on Facebook and Instagram are women. They're very close to being half and half. When we look at the age demographic, however, for Facebook, it's pretty consistent from the ages of 25 and 54. And then as we move over to Instagram, it is a majority of 45 to 54-year-olds. So there is, we notice a little bit of a gap in trying to reach our younger audiences, which is very interesting because overall the people on Instagram are millennials and Gen Z. So most of our audience are the older generations. Next slide, please. Thank you. So now that we've looked at where we were and where we stand now with social media, where do we want to go from here? So even though our engagement rates are super awesome, they are good, we still want to be able to sustain that and even improve in getting our followers to engage with our brand, or in other words, every member engaged. We want to have a closer match between social media following and our engagement rates. So our second goal is to sort of clear, there's a clear age gap, and we kind of want to meet that now generation, as Greg has said. As a nonprofit charity, we have such a strong donor base. We saw it through 2 of our Hope in Actions already, our disaster response efforts, and that is so awesome. Most of our donors we find are people who already have full-time jobs, have families, and who have been long-time participants with Hope Worldwide Canada for a long time. Our volunteer base, on the other hand, can improve if we reach and inspire our younger audience. We're thinking around ages 16 to 35 in order to increase volunteership and to equip and prepare the now generation. And I'll pass the slides back to Favor. Next slide, please.
So it's been touched on a little bit, but before going further and looking at what our strategy moving forward is, we need to kind of define our target audience. And so we've talked about reaching young people between the ages of 16 to 35, looking at students and single professionals, people just like anybody in that stage of life. Of course, living in Canada where our chapters are located. I also did want to make a note of a sort of psychographic that we're looking for. Of course, we want to reach people who value the same things that we do as an organization. And so people who are looking at, who value humanity, people who are seeking meaning, young people who are value generosity and are looking to, give of their money or their time or be engaged with their community. And so if you could, next slide, please. Yeah, so we're going to talk a bit about organic growth. And so when I say organic growth, what I'm referring to is basically increased engagement to our social media channels without the use of paid advertising. And there are different factors that play out into growing organically, including how frequently we post, use of video formats, how shareable our posts are, and then people like to see faces. It's just one of those things. So yeah, if you can go to the next slide, I'm going to touch on this more. Okay, so we're not only building relationships with the people who interact with our social media, but we're also building a relationship with the platforms themselves. And what I mean by that is that, for example, on Instagram, the more frequently we post, the more Instagram is likely to show our content to people who follow us. The algorithms have changed over time. You don't really see based on who you follow anymore. It's more like, okay, who does a better job of showing what you want to see? And so that's kind of what we aim to be, to add value to people to add value to our audience. And then also to increase our reach, we would need to develop a better relationship with the platform. I kind of compare it to, you don't want to be the one friend who only calls when they need something, but we also want to be there consistently for the people who follow us.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I just want to add to that as we continue to do our research. Instagram and Facebook are changing all the time. we found that Instagram actually rewards the use of new features, and they have added features that work very well for nonprofits that we still need to look into. One of them, one example being the ability to collect donations right on their platform. So that is very awesome that Instagram is using those new features for nonprofits like ours. Next slide, please. Okay, so as mentioned before, we are doing well, very well on the donation slide, calling for donations through email marketing, announcements through church services, on our websites, and people respond well when there's an ask for donations on social media too. And this is great. And like what Favor said before, we just don't want to use our social media channels to ask people for things or turn it into an announcement board every time we need something from them. So we really would like to see this to use to inspire our volunteers as well. Social media could be used as a great tool to mobilize our volunteers, but also inspire them through the stories of transformation. As Gregor said, our goal is for every member engaged and every engagement transformative. And people are just inspired by hearing other people's stories. And this was proven this year when we observed an uptick in engagements when we started doing volunteer spotlights, and even more when we use video formats to share their stories. For example, when we did the Instagram live interview with Amber and Olivia, that was our highest viewed, highest liked and commented video content that we have on Facebook and Instagram, which is very interesting to see. So people want to see people's volunteer stories.
Yeah, and that leads us in a direction of wanting to not shift, but add on to content that we already have, leveraging short form social media content. So when I say short form, we're like video format, think TikToks and Instagram style video, like under 1 minute length, showcasing different things about volunteering. I call it inside volunteering, basically volunteers sharing their story, kind of like what we've been doing with the volunteer spotlights already. But this time adding on also a way to teach our public about what it's like to be a volunteer, talking about different topics related to that as well. If you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, and so we put together examples of different topics that we find younger people to be to engage with based on what trends on social media, at least in the past few months. And there's topics that people care about, such as managing finances or balancing work and school, or non-traditional ways to live, or like doing things alongside friends, or tackling overcoming mental health struggles when it comes to the different aspirations that people have. And so kind of taking them and looking at how we can apply those topics to the situations that people have and relate to our own mission here as well.
So we are just going to make a little shift to our email marketing strategy now. Next slide, please. Perfect. So we actually started doing our quarterly newsletters in late 2021, just updating our donors, volunteers, and supporters of Hope Worldwide Canada with fundraising events, volunteer stories, and other stuff like that. So on these two charts, you'll see that we've tracked engagement rate using two metrics, which are open rates that track how many people open our emails, and through click-through rates, or CTRs, and that is how many of those people click on the links within the newsletters. And again, I would also like to point out that in 2021, when we compared them to nonprofits, all nonprofits in general, their nonprofits' average open rate was 26.6, and ours is well above that. After the Typhoon Odette, I believe, we've been hitting over 50%. And for click-through rates on the right side there, nonprofits were 2.7% average, and ours is pretty much above that as well. So again, this means that people are receiving our emails, are engaging with us, want to engage with us, and I think that's such a great thing for our organization. Next slide, please.
Okay, and so as we are making an effort to connect more with, or like have this more volunteer focus when it comes to marketing, we aim to reach younger people. And actually over the past few weeks, through different conversations we've had with people under 30, we find that actually a lot of people do spend, they purposely get time off of social media, and they prefer to hear about volunteer opportunities via email announcements. it works pretty well when it comes to church newsletters. And so we're wanting to see how we can leverage that as like or newsletters as a way to let people know about what volunteer opportunities are available and what they can engage in. And also we want to leverage the email as a way to share stories as well through articles, because we've been posting articles to the website as that has been, and so using that to showcase more stories of volunteers can inspire people to actually join and sign up for volunteer opportunities and participate and be engaged. And so how you can help. So we are looking for, of course, as we're trying to share volunteer stories and share the Hope Worldwide Canada story in general, we need people who are willing to share their experiences as well. And of course, we want to see every chapter represented in the efforts that we have on social media and email marketing. And yeah, we're also looking for people who are willing to be in front of the camera to share their stories. I know that can be a daunting challenge sometimes. So for any brave souls who are looking to do that, yeah, we are really in need for that. And yeah, that is how you can help us in our efforts.
And with that, we want to conclude our presentation. Thank you so much for your time and attention and for us being able to present to you guys today. And, we look forward to sharing the full story of Hope Worldwide Canada in the future.
Great. Well, thank you, Jasmine and Favor. And I know that I've got one question that's coming in, but we're going to do one other brief section before we head into our Q&A here. But again, Jasmine and Favor, outstanding job. Thank you. I wanted to briefly, while the AGM that we're here in is for 2021, obviously, and focusing on what we've done as a Canadian charity in 2021, what has been front and center for us at Hope Worldwide Canada since February the 24th has been the war in Ukraine. And so I wanted to give a very brief update on those efforts. But before I begin, I'd like us to imagine a few things. Imagine the role of a church leader. And earlier this year, Taras, the church leader in Kyiv, gave an update to his church and basically said, from this moment on, you have basically all become shepherds, and shepherds in a very difficult time. And that your role is no longer planning a service, renting a facility, but you are coordinating with a group of disciples and these are just regular disciples, not UN relief staff, not trained humanitarian relief workers, just regular, faithful disciples like you and I, distributing food to hundreds. And then you get news that someone in your church, a group of family, is in need of food or medicine, but they're on the other side of the Russian lines. Imagine as a church treasurer or an administrator, you're not doing check recs and getting tax forms done, but you're spending your time coordinating food, medicine, and relief efforts to your brothers and sisters. Imagine one night you went to bed like our sister Ludmila in Kyiv did on March the 22nd. She heard her dog barking. She went downstairs, and minutes later, a missile crashed through her roof, through the bed that she was just in, went out the back of her house and didn't explode. Fortunately, both she and her husband were unhurt. Imagine if that happened to you tonight when you went to bed. Imagine regular disciples thrust into situations you did not ask for, nor which there is very little training. Due to our involvement of Hope Worldwide and working with Taras, who spearheads our Ukrainian efforts, I've had the privilege of interacting with some amazing brothers and sisters. And I wanted to spend a little minute here putting names to faces and stories for the events that we are seeing on the news. And it has been a deep honor to get to know these brothers and sisters better and to really hear and experience and be inspired by what they are doing in a very challenging situation. Obviously, since 2015, Hope Worldwide Canada has been involved in child war trauma in the Ukraine. And sadly, because we live in a very broken world, much more support will be needed. So this is Oksana. She is the project manager for Helping Hands for Ukraine program. She had to flee the country. She's now in Frankfurt. She will go on maternity leave at the end of this month as she gives birth to their first child. And more than likely, her husband will not be by her side when she gives birth to their first child. This is Ira. She's the chief psychologist for our program in Ukraine. She's currently in a IDP or internally displaced persons camp outside of Lviv in Western Ukraine. She's married. Her husband's a disciple. He was in the military, but still struggles with PTSD. So imagine them being together when the bombs are going off and the missiles are flying. This is Vladimir. Vladimir, some of us have met before. He was at the Chicago Hope Conference a couple of years back. He's the country director for Hope Worldwide Ukraine. He's kind of like me, except he gets paid to do what he does. In Kyiv, he was with his wife and his 9-year-old daughter. He wanted to send his family to safety when the war broke out, but it was not able to do so. So he spent a lot of time in his apartment with his family, never knowing when it would come under missile attack. This is Justine Topaz. She works for Hope Worldwide Berlin. She's an amazing sister. She and her husband co-lead the church in Berlin. But they've got refugees living with them. And she's really been the focal point for taking care of the refugees that have been evacuated out of Ukraine. And just to give you an idea of size here, our church family in Ukraine had about 2,000 disciples. All across the rest of Europe, our church family had about 400 disciples. About 800 disciples have fled the country. That might be a little bit more now. And so she's coordinated getting them to places, finding them places, working with them, and really done an amazing job. And initially was working 18 hours a day, just a regular disciple like you and I, doing what she could do to help out in a very difficult time. This is, imagine what you would do and how you would interact if this war was on your doorstep and in your neighborhood. This is Sasha. Dave Malutnak, who's on the call, had a chance to meet him back in June when several of the Hope Worldwide staff were in Kyiv meeting with the Minister of Health to discuss what Hope Worldwide was doing to assist the war in Ukraine. Sasha's a Christian, a husband, and a father of 3 beautiful children. He lived in Irpin near Kyiv when the Russian tanks started rolling in his neighborhood. He drove his family to safety, but then he came back and he did the same thing, helping about 1,000 people in his community get to safety, all the time being shot at and endangering himself. Tragically, he was killed on June the 28th in an automobile accident. Just an ordinary disciple doing what he could do to help in a terrible time. You know, and in the midst of all of this, God is doing amazing things. The Kyiv church has had dozens of baptisms since February the 24th. Their sister church in Chechnya in Moldova has had a number of baptisms as well, and many people are studying the Bible. The response to this war across our churches in Canada has been outstanding. We get calls all the time. What can I do to help? How can I assist? What can I do? It has been amazing. We issued a national appeal on late February. To date, we've raised $107,000. That's the largest we've ever raised as a nonprofit in our history since 1993. Thank you for that. It's going to help refugees. We've already sent 2 batches of money over to assist, and it's also going to be assisting with the psychological assistance for that. Also, we sent out a survey polling to see if we could assist Ukrainian refugees coming to Canada. In April, our first family landed in Ottawa, and the Ottawa church has done a great job wrapping their arms around them. We started applying for grants, and amazingly, in April, we got a call from TELUS, and their Future Friendly Foundation had responded, and they gave us $50,000 to assist with the Child War Trauma Program, which is amazing. This is a very busy slide, but it highlights some of the things that we, together with our partners at Hope Worldwide and other Hope entities, are doing to come together. And we'll send these slides out afterwards. You don't have to memorize all this stuff. There won't be a quiz at the end. But we're just grateful for all of the work that we've got for all of this. So really, in many ways, what I wanted to do is just say thank you. Continue to connect with us on all our platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, the website. We're on Twitter. We're now on LinkedIn. And as we get more involved in the corporate world. So thank you for all your help. Thank you for all you do to serve board members. We are grateful for your support. I will now open it up to questions.